describe as the conditions inside? What was it like?
Well, it wasn't very good, especially with getting water. I think I was arrested around 6 o'clock, and we were asking for water. First, we asked for water in the paddy wagons. They were very hot in there. And then finally, when we got to the detention center, again, we were asking for water. It took them like hours. I know it was at least 6 or 7 hours later after I had been arrested until we finally got some water. Food came much later on. And then water, they didn't bring it out regularly. They would only give us 1 cup at a time. About the third time we got water, it was dirty. I'm not exactly sure why, but it was dirty water. But I was thirsty, and I wasn't getting much of it, so I drank it anyways. Some people refused to drink it, but I took my chances.
Wow.
And, I mean, some things, for me personally, they gave me a wheelchair. When I was in the cages they put us in, when I got there, they said they couldn't give me my leg because it could be used as a weapon. And so when I was in being held in the cage, they gave me a wheelchair to use. But all the time when I was in there, they still had my hands in handcuffs. Although they took them from behind my back, I had my hands cuffed in front of me. And all the people I was with in the area of the detention center I was in, they kept their handcuffs on all the time, which I didn't understand because we were in secure cages, in a secure facility. I didn't see the need to keep handcuffs on all the time because they're painful to wear after a while, and sometimes some of them were on very tight.
Where our federal authorities, at the behest of international authorities, are ordering our police to do crazy things. They're our City of Toronto police, and this is our City of Toronto. And if we share a little information about what's going on, including the fact that G20 was BS, 9/11 was an inside job, and there's a whole bunch of health risks we all kind of know about, and we all should know a lot more about, there will be a better city for it. So my colleagues here at Toronto Truth Seekers have a little bit of information.
So there was a woman that went to the Star and also City TV, and she said that she was sexually assaulted by the Toronto police. Now there's numerous stories. There's about 3 or 4 different women that actually went public. Not only that, let's look at the controversial fence, which can be compared to the Berlin Wall, meant to divide people, the elites and the public. You understand, this was a private party and you were not invited. We were not invited to this party. I didn't get the 5-star hotel and I didn't get the meal. I want my money back. Taxpayers' money. So initially, the cost of the fence was $5.5 million to build bricks and fencing. Now, it doubled in cost to $9.4 million. That's double. So the accountant was way off, and that's taxpayers' money being spent to divide people, you understand? And this the city got hijacked, it got robbed for 3 days. Civil rights were trampled on, and police intimidated innocent protesters. So we got sexually assaulting women. We got amputees being brutalized. They called this one man's leg a weapon. So I got to be concerned about our city, and we got to stand up because this isn't right. $1 billion, where did the money go? We need to have an accountant to break it down because they messed up completely. How did they get off by $5 million? Here's the National Post, $5.5 million. And then here is the Toronto Star, $9.4 million to build a fence.
With all these arrests that have happened, do you believe that a lot of people that didn't do anything have been arrested, or?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I spent 20 hours in the jail cell.
You were there too. Okay.
Yeah, without charge. I mean, they dropped. They let me go without any charge. I was in there with people that were there for 30 hours without a phone call.
Wow.
And without charge. There's a couple of people that weren't even in the system. They were just arrested, thrown in a couple cars, and never, if it wasn't for everybody in the jail cells demanding that these people get dealt with, they'd probably still be sitting there right now because they were totally lost in the system. It was a complete gong show in there.
Wow. So what was it like? What's your experience in there?
Oh, okay. My experience in there, I had about 500 milliliters of water given to me over the 20 hours plus detention I was in. They were feeding me. The food that they were feeding was hamburger buns with cheese and margarine. They weren't giving any other options. The videos, like they allowed people to do a tour. They allowed the media to do a tour yesterday, and they were just lying straight up to the media. Jesse Freeston was really challenging them on what they were saying that there was fruit available, that there was all types of different sandwiches, that water was available. Those are all lies. I didn't eat while I was in there as I'm celiac, so I couldn't eat any of the wheat of the bread, and they weren't giving me anything else. 500 milliliters of water, no access to a lawyer, no access to a phone call for the entire time I was in there. And one of the really encouraging things is the solidarity that was shown inside the jail cell. Mm-hmm. The entire block that I was sitting in, we together, everyone pretty much destroyed the jail cells. The actual jail, the cell I was in, they had to move our entire group because we just destroyed it.
Whoa.
We're supposed to be able to stay here. Why is he doing that?
Like, have you told the story to the people in Thorold, Ontario? How have people reacted in your community?
It varies. Some people are very supportive. Other people take the attitude that we shouldn't have gone there to begin with, which doesn't seem right in a democratic society that we shouldn't attend such an important political function. Freedom of speech and the right of assembly, those are all important issues, and they all dovetailed, in the G20, G8. That's why, from what I saw, tens of thousands of people attended there, because it's a very important issues for Canada.
Innocent people were arrested. Innocent people were trampled on. A man with an amputee leg had it ripped out of him, and then he was ordered to hop into a paddy wagon with one leg. Let's talk about the real truth.
I'm here today to represent those who were wrongfully detained by police on the weekend at the G20 summit in Toronto. I'm just an ordinary person. I'm not an organizer. I'm not an activist. But I got caught up in the police kettling operation at Queen Street and Spadina Avenue on Sunday afternoon that weekend. I just feel that what happened to me and to hundreds of others was very wrong. I live in Toronto, in downtown Toronto, on Queen Street. It shocks me that I was surrounded and held by police because I was just walking on the street where I live. At Queen and Spadina that afternoon, during a peaceful protest with no warning, we were surrounded by hundreds of police in riot gear, fully armed. We could not leave. They kept us standing in one of the worst rainstorms of the year for over 4 hours with no information disseminated to us, no food, no water, no toilets. Sometimes the police charged into the crowd, picking out people indiscriminately for arrest and dragging them away. It was a very frightening and disturbing experience. I couldn't believe this was happening in my country. Despite what I went through, I still consider myself lucky compared to the people who were taken and held at the Eastern Detention Center. I couldn't sleep that night. I had to take off work the next day, and I suffered from a panic attack on the way to work the following day. But the biggest consequence of that weekend is that I have lost my trust in the police. Now I am nervous when I see a police car. I consistently look over my shoulder. Sadly, it will take a long time to regain that trust. I've launched this lawsuit on behalf of the class of plaintiffs to seek the truth and to hold those responsible for these actions accountable. I hope that accountability will make things better for the future for all of us. I believe this could be a difficult journey, but in the end, I consider it a privilege to be able to represent those detained without charge on the G20 weekend. You folks know what you went through. Hopefully, I can help right that wrong. Thank you.
A lot of innocent people were arrested over Queen and Spadina, and they detained people for over 5 hours in the rain, women and children shaking. They put them on buses, and then they let them go. So they didn't want to have that record to show like an arrest. It was just meant to intimidate people, take away their civil liberties for like that 3-day summit. We see a lot of that, and it's appalling.
That's what I was thinking when they kept holding me there, and they wouldn't process me. And I thought, what's going on? Why don't they process me? I usually heard that they take your picture, and then you make a promise to appear in court for whatever the charges were, and then and you know, that would have been, I guess, a lot better if they had done it that way. They would have cleared people out faster, but it seemed they wanted to hold on to people, and after a while I thought they were just hanging on to us until the summit was over.
We got some important questions. Why was there a man that had an amputee leg? He had it ripped off him. And it was a weapon? Are you kidding me? A man on one leg hopping, they made him hop into a van. This is criminal intent. We need to ask the important questions.
Have you filed any charges, or are you planning to join the class action lawsuit, or have you decided anything like that?
No, I haven't filed any charges or anything. I've made a complaint to the Independent Police Commission, and as far as the other things, the class action and or doing other things, sort of still up in the air. I did call the Ombudsman's office on it, but they said they really couldn't do anything to help me because they said it was they can't investigate the police.
An unprecedented amount of police crawling all over the place. Yep. Our intentions is to provide some alternative information to people who are looking to learn about the G20, as opposed to the mainstream media slant on things. So, yeah.
What type of alternative information? Like
what do you mean?
Sort of, well, you're saying, well,
well, just
what's
about what the G20
media?
is.
Yeah, and what's the mainstream media saying?
Well, they're saying a lot of things. I just heard on the news just 2 days ago that they were laughing off. Well, this is interesting. I don't know if you guys are allowed to give me a statement on it, but the idea of provocateurs, police agent provocateurs being used. Have you ever heard, or are you familiar with what an agent provocateur is?
No.
Well, in Montebello, Quebec in 2007, there was 3 police officers who were dressed as aggressive protesters with rocks in their hands, wearing masks, in an attempt to incite violence. Yeah, the Quebec police ended up admitting to it and said, yeah, they were our officers and they were just performing their duties. But the mainstream media just the other day laughed it off as conspiracy theory. So we're just going to make the point that it's, why would you call it conspiracy theory when it's being openly admitted? So,
well, I know some people don't like it. It's a loss of national sovereignty, but it is a simple reality. It is a simple reality.